Hello, I'm Mayumi Ogata, a public speaking performance coach. Today, I'm bringing you the first installment of a series where I thoroughly analyze the presentations of Brené Brown, someone I deeply respect and whose speaking skills always move me. The analysis of techniques I'm about to share can be applied both in one-on-one situations when speaking to large groups or a general audience. That's because the essence of communication is the same in both cases.
And I said, oh my God, this is gonna suck. And it did, and it didn't. And it took about a year. And you know how there are people that, like, when they realize.
Why do Brené Brown's speeches resonate so deeply? The appeal of the big picture? Why do her speeches touch our hearts so deeply and profoundly? In this series, I want to uncover those secrets together with you from the perspective of a professional coach. This time, in particular, we'll explore the overall appeal of her speeches while delving into the magic of the first 90 seconds that instantly captivates the audience. Many people find that once they've heard a Brené Brown speech, they simply can never forget it. I believe her greatest appeal lies in how she shines a light on the shadowy aspects we all have, like vulnerability and shame, things we usually don't want to talk about. And from there, she finds hope in connection and courage. This is her brilliant way of tackling these darker themes. And what's particularly noteworthy is her identity as a researcher. Usually, when we think of what researchers say, we imagine their work as logical, objective, and specialized, and sometimes difficult to understand, which makes us think of it as boring. But as the subtitles say, combining a researcher's objectivity with a storyteller's empathy results in the ultimate persuasive power. In this speech, she conveys vast amounts of data and research findings, objective facts, by weaving them into a subjective story as if she's speaking directly to a friend. It's truly a fusion of the subjective and the objective. This is precisely why she calls herself both a researcher and a storyteller. And it's one of the reasons her message resonates so deeply and warmly with so many people. Moreover, her sense for choosing words is outstanding. For example, stories are just data with the soul. In other words, stories are data imbued with soul. Her ability to create such memorable and resonant phrases is also a major part of her appeal. And throughout her entire speech, what stands out is the contrast in rhythm and how skillfully she uses them. She delivers a punchline, then follows it up with something profound. This ebb and flow is what keeps the audience fully engaged. It's really impressive, isn't it? The contrast between her serious image as a researcher and her friendly smile and approachable way of speaking, isn't this what you'd call an appealing gap? This deliberate contrast might be one of the reasons so many people are drawn to her. Her technique of capturing hearts with a shocking 90-second opening conversation and humor. Now then, let's finally take a look at the legendary first 90 seconds of her TED Talk, The Power of Vulnerability. While many speeches begin with a question or some shocking data, the way she starts is truly electrifying. It's said that TED has an unspoken rule where speakers skip self-introductions. So, what do you think they start with instead? That's right, a conversational opening.
So I'll start with this. A couple of years ago, an event planner called me because I was going to do a speaking event. And she called and she said, I'm really struggling with how to write about you on the little flyer. And I thought, well, what's the struggle? And she said, well, I saw you speak, and I'm going to call you a researcher, I think, but I'm afraid if I call you a researcher, no one will come because they'll think you're boring and irrelevant.
What did you think? This way of establishing a sense of closeness. Just a simple, let's get started. It felt as if she was speaking directly to each and every one of us, didn't it? With just that one phrase, the atmosphere in the room completely changed, and the audience was ready to be drawn into her story. And then the following episode with the event planner is also outstanding. Boring and completely off the mark. The strategic use of humor here is just brilliant, isn't it? What's important here is that this laughter comes from a heartwarming, everyday moment that everyone can relate to, even just a little. Thanks to this humor, the audience naturally feels at ease and develops a sense of closeness to Brené. The effects of empathetic humor. It eases emotional tension, increases a sense of familiarity, and helps the message sink in. Earlier, I mentioned that in TED Talks, speakers don't introduce themselves, but in the first 90 seconds, Brené subtly introduces herself, doesn't she? And within this conversation, she skillfully weaves in the fact that she is an identity researcher, as well as how that is generally perceived. Furthermore, what about when she suggests being a storyteller after that? In response to this suggestion, she replies with self-deprecating words, expressing her own insecurities as a scholar and referring to herself as a magical fairy. In doing so, she is actually embodying the very theme of vulnerability that she is about to discuss right from the beginning. I honestly think this part is truly brilliant and genius.
And of course, the academic, insecure part of me was like, you're going to call me a what? And she said, I'm going to call you a storyteller. And I was like, oh, why not magic pixie?
In these first 90 seconds, Brené skillfully uses conversation, humor, and a small self-disclosure of her own vulnerability to build a strong sense of trust and rapport with the audience. That's exactly why we're able to open our hearts and listen to her later, deeper, and sometimes more serious stories. It's really amazing, isn't it? Another thing I want to highlight about her speaking style is her natural use of fillers and pauses. When it comes to speeches,
we tend to try to eliminate fillers like an or or we become conscious of not stuttering.
But if you listen closely to Brené's speeches, you'll notice that those kinds of words, including stutters, are actually woven in quite naturally. This creates a warm sense of closeness, as if you're having a personal conversation with her, rather than a speech striving for perfection. I believe this is one of the reasons why her speeches have been cherished for so long. So, how exactly is this comfortable sense of closeness actually created and experienced? The answer is to be attuned to the other person. As she speaks, there are tiny pauses between her words, and in those brief moments, the audience bursts into laughter. This laughter, almost like a call and response, brings a natural rhythm and sense of unity to her speech. Even from the perspective of a stage actor, this is an extremely important element in creating a sense of presence. The key is how to create a sense of unity with the audience in a natural way without it feeling forced. She does this as naturally as breathing. She truly is a genius, isn't she? I highly recommend watching the first 90 seconds of her performance over and over so you can really feel that atmosphere for yourself. Let's summarize the key points from today's analysis that you can apply to your own speeches and presentations. First, the integration of subjective and objective perspectives. By connecting your own experiences and emotions with objective information or data, your story gains depth and persuasiveness. Next, the use of a conversational introduction. Starting with natural language that speaks directly to the audience, rather than a stiff, formal greeting, creates a sense of closeness. This sense of closeness helps create a safe and comfortable environment, allowing the audience to naturally open up and become receptive to your message. Next, the strategic use of humor can lighten the atmosphere and open the hearts of your audience. Humor is powerful, but be sure to choose types that evoke empathy and do not hurt anyone. The overall dynamics and rhythm of your speech are also important. By adding variety, such as following a moment of laughter with an important point or your main message, you can keep the audience engaged and prevent them from getting bored. Approaches to addressing heavier themes like Brené's can also serve as a good reference. Even with heavy topics, incorporating humor, vulnerability like hers, or self-disclosure can make it easier for the audience to accept your message.
Finally, revealing an unexpected, more human side of yourself can increase your appeal and help you connect more deeply with your audience or counterpart.
Be sure to always keep these important points in mind in order to make your speeches or communication even more captivating and engaging. This will help you become a more effective and successful communicator. Well, this time we explored the appeal of Brené Brown's speeches, focusing especially on the magic of the first 90 seconds. There are still many more fascinating aspects that we haven't covered yet. So next time, I'd like to delve into the secrets of how she explores the serious theme of vulnerability and leads us to both inspiration and action. Just a quick announcement. Actually, I recently released a video content series on Udemy called Master Stage Presence Like a Professional Actor. In it, you can learn how to project presence like an actor, including how to use your gaze, facial expressions, tone of voice, posture, and energy. For more details and to purchase, please click the link in the description below. Along with this YouTube channel, I hope it will help you improve your communication skills. If you found today's video even a little bit helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I'd also appreciate it if you share it. Well then, see you in the next video.